Space Marine. Wooly, do you know about Warhammer?
The Codex Astartes, the Emperor of Mankind, and 50 stomachs, organs, lungs, and hearts.
Nailed it. You nailed it. You did it. So Spice Marine 2 came out. What are you laughing at?
Is there a Kiwi accent behind this thing?
No, no. First of all, my accent sucks. You know this. The reason why I do that every time is because in Space Marine 1, you fought the orcs.
Okay.
And every single time you turned a corner, there would be an orc in a Cockney accent going, "Oi, Spice Marine!"
Spice,
literally
Cockney,
every single time.
Okay.
That
was almost.
Also, for Warhammer's British.
Yes. Okay.
So, so Space Marine 2 came out. I got the game for free, so everyone take that into account when I talk about it. That is a really goddamn good game, and it is taking its subject matter more serious than its existence as a game.
I have a really dumb basic question.
I bet I have a dumb basic answer.
Okay. So you know how in the derivative property StarCraft...
That's right.
The preface is important. One human soldier is relatively the equivalent of 2 Zerglings, which is the equivalent of 2 humans to 1 Protoss.
That's right, more or less.
Okay. So, like, what are the orcs up to and like in 40K, given that the human Space Marines that are no longer human are these fucking insane beasts of creatures? Like, does the average space orc hold a candle at all in the same proportion?
No, fuck no. Absolutely not. No way.
Because you know how, like, in the not 40K, an orc is a bigger, stronger, more threatening thing
let me just
standing
right
next to
here.
a human?
Everyone in the chat who's a massive fucking nerd that read the Horus Heresy can correct me if I'm wrong, which you will. I know you will. Chapters in Warhammer 40K of Space Marines, like, the specific, like, chapter, the armor color and, like, their organizational structure, is 1,000 dudes. And they'll send, like, half of that to fucking take over, like, a whole planet.
Okay.
That's the fucking math scaling you're going on.
Okay. So the Marines are not even remotely a metric to compare to anything else.
No, a Warhammer 40K Space Marine is going up against the entire StarCraft map.
Yeah, okay.
It's ridiculous.
Do not think of them as advanced humanity even. It's just
these things
gods.
are deific god beings.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
So, to answer your question is like, what are the orcs up to? The orcs are up to reproducing via mushroom spores. Like, orcs are just in 40K are just dust. They're like toe fungus that just lands on the ground and grows into an orc.
Okay.
So there's a lot of them.
Okay.
This is the deal.
Because I ask because in every property that I'm familiar with, or even vaguely familiar with, orc is a shorthand for, big, strong monster human.
Yeah, bigger, dumber guy.
And then you can have little goblins that are tiny, sneakier little...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Then you can have elves that are like agile, fast, and pretty, and whatever. But they're all just like, character archetypes that you modify, and then you have your human as the balanced 50-51, and so on. So, like, in this space context, like, orcs are no longer than the biggest, like...
No, orcs are a numerous swarm race.
Thing. Yeah, okay.
Which is why they made a really good antagonist for Space Marine 1 that came out like 10 years ago. But now we're on to...
But they still are the big threatening thing relative to the regular humans in the future, just not...
Oh, yeah, no, regular humans are like tiny little bitches by comparison.
Right. But they're
orcs are also weird in that, like, they just get bigger the longer they're alive with no upper limit.
Okay.
it's a whole thing. Warhammer 40K is like an entire universe that is existing entirely on the rule of cool. Like every single concept exists to make you convinced that your $85 plastic miniature that actually costs 2 cents is worth $85, and then you can all, it's a privilege to paint it.
Of course.
So Space Marine 1 came out like 10 years ago and was made by Relic, who's the guys who did Dawn of War, which is an RTS. And it was basically what StarCraft Ghost was supposed to be. It was like, hey, dude, what if you were on the ground in a real-time strategy game and you were doing that? And as a result, it was really good. It was weirdly good.
That was,
like it wasn't perfect, but like it was solid.
360, right? I think that dropped. Or,
yeah. Space Marine 2 comes in and goes, listen, do you want to play Space Marine 1 with better graphics? And I go, yeah. And they go, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to have the same main character, despite the games taking place hundreds of years apart. We're going to have the same basic gameplay, mission structure, and multiplayer. But instead of the orcs, it's going to be the Tyranids, the bugs that are not the Zerg. Now, Woolie, you may look up the word Tyranid and go, that looks like the Zerg, to which I say, no, shut up, though.
Well, hold on a minute. Didn't everything from Warhammer come first?
Yes. That's
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So,
you know,
what Warhammer
Penny Arcade is one of your 7 black mouths. Sing the song that ends the earth.
Yeah.
You know.
So, Space Marine 2 is like, hey, do you want to play Gears of War with no cover but a really good melee system?
Okay.
That's what that game is. There's no cover, but there's a really good melee system.
Do Space Marines need to cover?
No, they are the cover.
Yeah, okay.
You are the cover.
Yeah, okay.
So you are being you're having like the like a basic encounter, like a normal room is like you and your 2 boys against like 150 bugs with like 4 or 5 like officer type bugs. You are using really good third-person shooting. I'm like genuinely surprisingly good third-person shooting with a full melee combat system that includes dodge rolls and parries.
Nice.
And multiple melee weapons. As well as a really cool mechanic where if you parry like a stronger monster or knock them over with a heavy attack, you can shoot your gun and it'll zoom in on you taking your pistol out to just blow their fucking brains out.
So does this make the game play more like an EDF than a
no,
shooter?
dude, okay. It's like less complex God of War Ragnarok on the melee.
Okay.
And it is like a solid third-person shooter on the shooting. Like, and you are constantly doing both at all times.
I guess if the army or the thing you're shooting at changes from, soldiers shooting at you from different distances to bugs and creatures, then...
Well, don't worry. The bugs also have guns.
There
Just certain kinds of bugs have guns.
That makes sense. There we go. Okay.
The bugs have snipers, too. Crazy. Even though they're just dumb bugs.
Are they just fucking ass spitting it at you, I guess? Or...
No, they are holding guns that are smaller bugs. And the bugs that are the smaller bugs that are guns are shooting even smaller bugs as bullets.
Dead seriously.
I'm so serious. They're essentially like it's like a fucking it's like a fucking it's like holding a rat that vomits ticks at you.
Yeah, bugs all the way down. Yeah, okay.
No, bugs.
Okay, the dog that spits out the gun that shoots the bees.
So this is a game that has a really solid campaign with a story that has this awesome bell curve of person who doesn't really care about 40K will find this story like boring and uninteresting, because 99% of all dialogue in this game is, brother, we must destroy the bugs for the Emperor, brother. Oh, I hate the bugs, brother. And die, bugs. Just like it's like dry, like wrestling banter with like a pro Roman God Emperor fetish. It's super dry.
Okay. Are there any parts of this, or rather, how much of this is there like essentially reading pages out of the fucking?
No. It's super utilitarian.
Huh.
It's like you're on your ship and you talk to the chaplain and your commanding officer. The chaplain tells you that you aren't shit and that they think you're into chaos. Then your commanding officer says, you guys are fucking dumb. You got to get down there and kill every bug ever. And then you go down to the elevator and the two guys that hang out with you go, I don't know about all these bugs. Are you sure you don't love chaos? And then you get on the planet and you go, we're going to go here and kill the bugs. Then we're going to go here and kill the bugs. Then we're going to go here and kill the bugs. And then we're going to go here and kill the bugs for the Emperor.
Okay. They're not really taking you on a journey through the lore.
There is not one smile in this entire game.
I mean, fair. It's fucking Warhammer.
Yeah, but like, you know how it's like, oh, the Marvelization and everything's jokey? Like, fuck that. No, this is about killing bugs because God told you to.
But that would be that's always been like, are there smiles to be found ever anywhere in 40K?
Yes.
Like, there are, yeah. With Space Marines?
Very rarely. And this is, so I'll get to that later. Yeah, fuck it, I'll get to that now. The game has a problem right off the bat. And this is a problem that only somebody who's tangentially or at least a little bit into Warhammer 40K would have. So you've probably seen footage of Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. And you have noticed that the Space Marines are blue. Say yes, you've seen them and they're blue.
I'll do so in about a second. Yes, they're blue.
They're blue. This sucks a lot because the Ultramarines, also known as the Blueberries, are the boring main character, not quite Roman faction of the Space Marines.
Gotcha.
They are the Ryu without any sauce faction.
Okay, the default soldiers.
They are as default basic as it gets.
So all that fun stuff that people talk about when it comes to the crazy factions and stuff, that's all the extra fun freak characters.
So they're not the space wolves with their focus on feasting and hunting and their cool fur coats. They're not the salamanders who look like the devil from a rock planet, but they're actually really nice. They're not the Raven Guard who just look really fucking cool and they're all about justice.
I see someone yelling, they're cool, okay. It's like, if you have to say okay at the end of that, then are you trying to convince yourself? Like,
they're not the Blood Ravens who have like a secret dark past and like a blood rage thing with magic. No, Ultramarines are, I'm a fucking Space Marine and I love the Emperor and we have a vague Roman tint to some of our aesthetic, but they're the generalist, normal, stoic Space Marine.
Mm-hmm.
So are there Space Marines that have a smile? Yeah, actually, totally. You could have put the salamanders or the fucking you could put the salamanders or the
Harlequins.
fucking,
is that a thing?
No, that's a elf shit.
Okay.
Or the fucking space wolves or the I forget this, but the Primarch looks like Genghis Khan.
White scars.
And he's super jokey. Yeah, no, there could have been, right? But no, we got the fucking, that's the white scars. Okay. Yeah. We got the as default as it fucking gets. And as an extra point of massive fuck annoyance, you start the game as one of the most interesting Space Marine chapters, the Death Watch, which is all the losers and criminals that have been kicked out of their fucking chapter. and then you segue into playing as a ultramarine for the whole rest of the game.
Okay, now when you say no smiles, though, it's like, are we talking about unhinged, crazy cultist smiles, or are we talking about like, because you were saying Marvel quips?
The villain gets to have a laugh.
Okay. Because Marvel quips is I would never expect things that energy to show up in this type of franchise. But
I will tell you. You might have noticed that I said the villain gets to have a laugh, but I talked about bugs the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you see, Woolie, as this is a Space Marine story, it must follow a completely exhausting progression from the really interesting enemy that you were excited to fight to the Chaos Space Marines, which you are mandated to fight at the end of every single fucking 40K campaign ever.
Is that a bad thing?
So the problem is that the bugs and the Chaos Space Marines are mechanically different, which is good. In the first game, the orcs and the Chaos Marines were mechanically very similar, except for the Chaos Marines just shot you way more and was very annoying. The issue is that the bugs are more fun to fight than the Chaos Space Marines.
Okay.
Like their enemy roster is like actually more fun to fight.
Okay.
So you get to 4.5 missions in, and then the game goes full new enemy roster, and you're like, that's awesome. And it's actually really appreciated, and they're not like much worse to fight, but they're just not quite as fun to fight as the bugs.
Because you're getting like just soldier versus soldier tech battle. Versus
Oh no! Well, so here's where they did a massive upgrade. So in Space Marine 1, you fought like, I don't even know if they have like a specific chapter. You fought like generic ass Chaos Space Marines. They were Chaos Marines, but they were evil. They're evil Space Marines, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Space Marine 2, you fight a named chapter, which is one of the weirder ones, called the Thousand Suns, which is a chapter of Egyptian-themed dust mummy marines.
Okay.
That are all just automatons filled with magic corpse dust.
Okay. When you're fighting different factions in Warhammer, I don't know if this is the case or not, but in my head I imagine that you have like all the soldiers shooting and going nuts at each other with the armor, but then whatever crazy fucked up god they worship is also making shit happen with their faction.
So Space Marine 1 didn't really do that, but Space Marine 2 totally actually does do that.
And like god play is happening amongst the soldiers is what I imagine it's like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that does happen. So complaints aside, I don't care for the Ultramarines. That's my biggest complaint possible. The campaign is fucking awesome. The story is whatever. Who gives a shit? It is an excuse to shoot bugs and chaos. The narrative, who gives a shit?
Really?
Who gives a fuck?
Really?
The Space Marines are cool and they're gonna kill chaos. That's the narrative.
Shit.
Okay.
We're hitting Strangers of Paradise.
What it is an excuse to engage in the most bombastic, large-scale, outrageous set-piece shit I have ever seen.
You have to understand as an outsider that when you go, what story, fuck that shit, in a Warhammer 40K context, and I'm like, you mean the thing with the longest, most detailed Wikipedias I have ever seen, with the densest, most insanely, specifically detailed story ever?
Remember,
we're hand-waving the thing that's all about the lore?
Absolutely, 100%. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. Every single Wikipedia detail exists to make a little plastic toy look more valuable than it is. All of it, right? And Warhammer, so there's a lot of Warhammer games. And when you make a Warhammer game, you get to do something really fun, which is look at a roster of like 400 different enemy factions.
Lore isn't story, right?
And go, I want to fight the rats this time. I want the Thousand Suns. That's a cool chapter. like that kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, I'm going to spoil the gist of the plot for Space Marine 2.
Sure.
Okay? Get ready. The bugs are there, but Chaos was also there, and it was a secret, and Chaos wants to do evil Chaos shit, and then you have to stop them. That is every single fucking Warhammer story that has ever existed. Ever.
Are you...
Ever.
Is it ever... But is it, like, because they're evil, or is it because that you do it for the fucking Emperor?
So, they are there because they are evil. Everything that a Chaos Space Marine does is because they love evil. They love it. They love being evil.
Okay.
It's their favorite.
Okay.
They get up in the morning and they're like, I love evil. And you, because you love the Emperor, hate that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I also peripherally was under the impression that there's no real good anywhere. It's just different degrees of strength really and funny? Different degrees of, I guess, blood and bloodthirst. And
you want to hear something really funny? There is one faction that at one time was good.
Huh.
So I don't know if you've heard of the Tau.
Oh, that name rings a bell, yeah.
So the Tau are a Asian-focused aesthetic race that is about the greater good. They're kind of like a Maoist, like communist thing, but with like a lot of Japanese robot aesthetic. They're
it's
aliens
spelled with
and they have a lot
U
of
and not an O.
They're like aliens that have like an Asian aesthetic and they have like a lot of robots. And their whole thing was for the greater good, and their society was about benefiting for the greater good. And they were kind of like weird that they were like good guys, that they were actually trying to make like a good anything. And then they got retconned into that being actually due to the upper class having like mind control.
Okay.
Like it was like, oh, you can't have good guys.
No, you can't have good guys.
You can't have them.
There's no good. Yeah, okay.
The closest thing to ever have like a good faction in the entirety of 40K is like the Salamander Space Marine faction, because they actively try and minimize civilian casualties.
Okay.
Like that's as good as you're gonna get.
So I saw something about like some mocap of ASL in the game as well.
No, that's a different Warhammer thing. So here's the thing: I streamed Warhammer. I streamed Space Marine 2, so now the subreddit's going to be completely flooded with Warhammer shit for like a year, because Warhammer people can't help it because there's so much. Yeah. There's so much.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, like on the Slop stream, I watched a video about the orb once, I think, and that set off an era. So yes.
But anyway,
the floodgates are open temporarily.
Who gives a fucking shit about the story? Whatever, it's a fucking excuse. But that excuse is to have big, cool battles, right? In that respect, Space Marine 2 has the biggest, coolest battles in a shooter I've ever seen, ever, with no qualification. I'm going to have minor encounter spoilers for the last 2 levels. So, of 6 levels, the last 2 I'm going to talk a little bit about.
Okay.
So
you beat
in
2.
The very beginning of the game onwards,
you beat it.
You will see a horde of bugs coming at you. And like, you see a horde in games, it's like 20 to 40 to 50 like enemies, like zombies or whatever, like think of Left 4 Dead. In like one of the first big set pieces in Space Marine 2, you see like 4,000 enemies running at you. And then you realize that those are real enemies that you are going to fight.
Right.
And it just kind of escalates from there.
Not a cutscene.
It is actually nailing the whole horizon is an enemy force coming to fight just you.
That's great.
And you beat it. And it is like absolutely crazy. Like it's why you have a melee option in addition to shooting. Like you shoot like hundreds And then and you're just kicking and fighting, and it's awesome. It has Doom's glory kill system for regaining armor, that kind of thing.
I was gonna say, I'm imagining the Doom cover, right? Yeah.
So they're using the tech the team made for World War Z to just put shit millions of enemies on the screen.
Okay, the swarm.
So you're doing that with the bugs. And just the amount of bugs is escalating and escalating and escalating. And you're actually encountering quite often the situation where you have completely run out of ammo. And that's why you're in melee, because you are at 0 bullets.
Okay.
Because there are just so many. But for the series of finales, they do something that I wasn't expecting. Was the whole game has been 3 Marines versus like 10,000 enemies per encounter. And what they do is they give you a couple of little showpiece moments of like, well, what kind of encounter would 20 Marines fight? And you get to fight, what would 20 Marines fight in scale?
Okay.
What would it be like to hang out with a gigantic robotic tomb robot called a dreadnought and fight that fight? What would it be like to fight alongside like a high tier unit or like a captain or a hero in your army?
Planetary
and
scale.
it just like escalates, and then the next level escalates, and it escalates.
Nice.
And it escalates so high that at one point you are just like doing a firing line into hell for multiple minutes.
Holy shit. Okay, that's pretty fucking sick.
And like it is impossible to under like, and like the enemy force is functionally infinite.
Wow.
And you're doing it.
You're actually playing and doing it. Yeah, okay. That's fucking nuts. Sick.
And like as a result, who cares about the story? The story is we have to stop chaos. Right? Bro, you fight a lot of bugs in chaos. Like it is fulfilling it is fulfilling StarCraft Ghost's dream to the nth degree of being a single unit on your RTS map.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, the final boss is awesome. Like the final boss has a lot of like melee parrying, like Virgil shit. It's not what I thought it was going to be. It's awesome.
For those of you who are actively in the 40K world and are painting those miniatures forever, how much story takes? How much of the world is lore of previous events, and how much is currently ongoing developments in an active story? Like, is it 99-1?
It is 99.9%. Can you believe that shit happened?
It's all the books. Yeah. Okay.
Can I find the Horus Heresy chart?
I mean,
is that if I type in Horus Heresy chart, will I get it?
I do. Yeah,
there it is.
I have wound up on Wikipedia entries and I've read really long pages. And
fuck that. You want the chart
without internalizing at all what happened or what I was reading.
Okay.
So
that's the Horus Heresy chart.
Okay, hold on.
You want to hazard a guess as to what that even is?
Gotta zoom in here. The Horus Heresy timeline. Okay. So, are these the various books and the wars that they cover?
These are novels.
These are novels. Okay.
Every single one of those is a novel.
Okay. So yes, this is the active forward-moving timeline.
That represents like hundreds of thousands of pages to sum up. The Emperor's son Horus turned bad and made Chaos Space Marines.
Okay. Well, as someone who read all of Dragonlance, and then I read the spin-offs, and then I read the second in the Age, and then the You know, the shit going back to Ishtar and all of the, all the sort of supplemental material. I've probably read about maybe somewhere between 10 and 15 books. I get it.
The purpose of the purpose of Warhammer's story is so that when I'm playing Space Marine 2 and I see that the Imperial Guard, which is the normal human army, like regular normie humans with like regular guns and tanks, is the 8th Cadian Regiment. And they yell out that Cadia broke before the Guard. I go, that's cool. What does that mean? To which someone in chat will say, well, when the planet Cadia was attacked by Chaos, the planet literally exploded into chunks, and the Guard were fighting demons on the chunks.
Damn.
Thus, Cadia broke before the Guard did. Okay. And then I go, those are the guys.
I see.
Those are the regular little humans.
Damn.
Standing in as NPCs in this mission. That is the purpose of Warhammer's story. Yeah. So that there is a cool-ass factoid to go along with Jerry the army man that happens to be in front of you.
Are the games covering events that are known things, kind of like Halo Reach?
No, the games are almost exclusively like brand new side events.
Okay. Because like Halo Reach is like, what happened? We heard about Reach. What was the thing?
Yeah,
here it is. Right. Yeah.
They're their own thing, nearly exclusively.
Okay.
That's sick. That campaign's a trip.
That's hot.
One slightly minor campaign problem. You see Ruin. You know what? They build up to like you're gonna fight a third enemy faction, and then you don't, and it's like, but maybe that third enemy faction will come in DLC. Who knows? So that's a really cool campaign. And then they have a multiplayer mode, which is 6v6 shooter.
Oh shit! Okay.
With capture the point, death match. Pretty normal. And before the game came out, I said, "Hey, I want this game's multiplayer not to be excellent, but to be pretty good." And you know what? I nailed it. It is not excellent. It is not a fully featured Call of Duty Battlefield multiplayer suite.
Not the focus of development.
It is a really solid 6v6 shooter that has Space Marines in it and a class system, and it's pretty goddamn good. It's not going to set the world on fire, but when I finished that campaign, I went, man, I would love to shoot some fucking Space Marines in multiplayer. And then I did, and I had a really great time.
Okay. So you're looking for a Last of Us multiplayer mode more than a Metroid Prime 2 or a BioShock 2 multiplayer mode.
Yeah.
Still an afterthought, but
pretty good.
But some fun to be had.
So what's not an afterthought is the game's other multiplayer mode. So you can play the whole game in co-op, and that's cool because that's why you always have 2 other guys with you so that you can play 3-player co-op through every campaign mission. But throughout the whole campaign, there is another team of 3 guys that are doing the other half of your mission. So in a mission where you're like, hey, we got to fight a lot of these bugs. Can you guys flood the area with propane and blow up the bugs? And they go, got it. And then you never fucking see them again. Okay. They're going on the secondary mandatory co-op missions that have a full perk leveling system that is unique to it and a whole class system that is just for these like Left 4 Dead style multiplayer maps.
Cool. Okay.
And there's 6 of those.
Huh. Interesting.
And it's really good. It's not the best and it's not as bombastic as the campaign, but like there are bosses that you don't get to fight in the campaign because they're in the co-op campaign.
Okay.
Like you never ever fight the final boss of the bugs in the main campaign. That is in the co-op campaign.
Chalice dungeons only.
No, they're not Chalice dungeons.
Well, no,
they're like
just
full proper missions.
But like a full boss encounter that you would not experience if you just played the story.
And I've only like poked my toe into that, and that's also pretty good. So the way that I described it on Twitter was like, this is 3 8 out of 10s combining to make like a 9. Because all of the pieces are really good. They're not the best, but they're all really good. And they're the most like, they do the best job of like the fantasy of a space marine, like in war and seeing Warhammer from the dirt, like from the ground.
Are these the same devs behind the first game?
Nope.
Okay.
The devs behind the first game made Dawn of War 3, which was terrible.
Because I'm looking at Saber Interactive here, and I'm like,
They made World War Z.
yeah, but it's all they've made of. Like, there's a lot. This is a very active company, and I'm like, how is? I guess I'm just like this. I feel like I'm missing out on something. Are they like a support studio that, you know?
To be honest, I have no idea.
Because the amount of shit they have upcoming and the shit that they're credited on is just like extensive. Scrolling back through this list, and they're working on the KOTOR remake. They're on Descent. And then like going back from Warhammer. I'm seeing like anyway a lot. Halo in there besides World War Z and so on. Yeah. Anyway.
So of note is that at some point, I think maybe this year or early next year, they are going to come out with a horde mode, which is like the absolute most mandatory mode for this kind of game against huge amounts of enemies. They're also going to add new enemies, but nobody can tell if that's new enemy like factions or new enemy types. It's probably going to be new enemy types and not factions, but yeah, who knows? And last but not least is in the multiplayer, the co-op missions and the PvP, you know, you can go and customize your little spaceman.
Yeah,
you can, bro, you can fucking go
you can.
nuts on it. So
I mean,
right
look,
off
man.
the bat, here's every chapter I have ever heard of's colors available.
Yeah, it like Gundam Breaker 4, right? Just that just dropped with the like every gun plot option you should ever have ever is going to be in this thing. And like, yes, for a series about miniatures, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, you could paint your boys.
Oh, yes, correct.
So yeah, no, it's super solid. I really like it. I'm very excited to go through the co-op campaign, and I also am very excited for the horde mode, and I'm just plunking away at the PvP because it's chill, it's fun, I like it, it's good to do.
Optional modes that are like just as fucking solid as
that are good.
That's a rarity these days.
Like back in the 360 era, I was like, well, this one has pack-in multiplayer, and you're like, oh, and then like 1 out of 10, we're like, oh wait, this is actually really good.
Like you boot it up and you see like a different studio name, and then like the frame rate is immediately different, you know, and like it just starts. Yeah, you're like, why are these buttons not the same? And what is? Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, no, it does have some of that because like the way your character functions in between the 3 modes is different in all 3 modes.
Okay. I mean, shit, man. Spent a lot of time working on the Tomb Raider reboot, and it was like the multiplayer version of that versus the single player is like just wildly different controls sometimes, you know. And anyway, it's very clear that different people were handling these things, but
yeah, no,
cool.
it's super cool. It also looks great, but man, like it doesn't run the best, and it's because there's 400,000 bugs on the screen. Like it's like chugging sometimes, but then you like look at what's actually happening on the screen, and you kind of go like, all right. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's the horde from the mobile game ad that's rushing your tower, except you actually have to fight them.
Yes, it is absolutely that.